What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Victory Monday. DK Show up on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. You got your smart speakers, smart devices. Stream it or video stream it. Video stream already up and loaded on Facebook, YouTube, also at Sports Talk 1051.com. But happy Monday. Hopefully all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week here. What do we got on the game plan for us here this morning? No Jordan Love. No problem again for the Pack. So they get a 30-14 victory against the Tennessee Titans to improve to 2-1 on the season. Malik Willis, again, solid 13-19, over 200 yards passing, touchdown pass, no interceptions. Also led the team in rushing with 6 carries and 73 yards. Also had a rushing touchdown in the game yesterday. But Packers defense, again, helping out the cause there. 8 sacks. Count them. 8 sacks yesterday by the Pack, including 2 from Devontae Wyatt and Preston Smith, 2 apiece from Noah Enagbare, 1.5 sacks too. So 8 total sacks, 2 interceptions. Jair with the pick 6, Xavier McKinney with another interception, and then a fumble recovery too by Lucas Van Ness. So defensively, kind of thought about it, or we kind of talked about it last week. Could this be a game where maybe that pass rush kind of tees off the first couple weeks? They going up against mobile quarterbacks, maybe a little bit more of a disciplined, maybe a little bit more of a contained type of pressure. Would they go out there and be a little bit more aggressive with that pass rush? Sure looks like they did. Sure looks like they did. So plenty to talk about with this game. Recapping it, your thoughts, who's getting some game balls, who's getting your tip of the cap, what's your analysis from this game, offensively, defensively, players, coaches, whatever's on your mind. Join in on the convo, let us know. All right, hit me up 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line here this morning. That's always open up over there. So we've got Packers chat coming up here in just a little bit. Brewers, not the best of weekends for the Brewers. Losing the series to the Diamondbacks, dropping their first 3 games. And it looked like yesterday that they were going to be losing their 4th straight game for the first time this whole season and being swept in a 4-game series at home against the Diamondbacks, a team they could face in the postseason. But the Brewers staying with it and overcame a 8-run deficit to pick up a 10-9 victory over the Diamondbacks yesterday to still remain as the only team in Major League Baseball to not have a 4-game losing streak. Didn't look that great when you're down 8-0 heading into the bottom of the 3rd, especially when you give up 7 runs in that 3rd inning. Frankie Montas, I think it's fair to say, probably not a breaking, bold statement or anything. Dude was not good yesterday. 2 2/3, 7 earned runs. Getting charged with 7 earned runs out of the 8 runs there. Did strike out 4, but also gave up 3 long balls in the contest. So it's looking a little less likely as we enter this final week of the regular season. Off day today for the Brewers, but they're going to need some help. First of all, they got to take care of their business, but they're going to need some help if they want to try to get into that top two spots over there for getting a bye. Because right now, I mean, the Padres are actually ahead of them in wins too. So, but it's Padres Dodgers. What a big series that is coming up here. But there's 4 back from the top spot, 3 back from the second spot, which is currently held by the Phillies. But again, reminder: Brewers do not hold the tiebreaker against the Phillies. So, but we've got this is going to be an interesting week coming down here. This is going to be I think a fun final week of the regular season. because we still got some stuff to play out here. I mean, right now, sorry, Twin fans, but the playoffs started right now. You're not in. You're not in. Right now, the Tigers are in the postseason. And I don't know anybody who wants to maybe play the Tigers right now, but they're in it. You've got Kansas City is in it, Baltimore, Cleveland, New York. Those similar ones here too. But a little bit of a shuffle here in terms of the National League standings too, because I mean the Mets are playing some good ball here, and right now they're the fifth team in that wild card chase. So we've been kind of talking about it. It still could happen. This final weekend series coming up here with the Mets coming to Milwaukee, could they just stay there? And it still could. But right now it would be Arizona. Potentially, Arizona and the Mets holding on there with an 87-69 record overall. But it'll be interesting because the Mets also have a big series coming up here with the Braves starting tomorrow. And the Mets currently 2 games ahead of the Braves for that final wild card spot. So it's gonna be a crazy finish here in this final week. Got 3 teams who have clinched in the National League, 3 teams who have clinched playoff spots, and 3 who have yet to nail down a spot. Same in the American League here too. Well, actually, just a couple here in the American League, just 2 teams clinching, and that's still up in the air. So lots at stake here in this final week. We'll go through it all and talk some Brewers. Off day today again for the Brewers. Maybe that's what they needed to after this 13-game stretch. After taking 2 out of 3 against San Francisco, 2 out of 3 against Arizona, 2 out of 3 against Philly to clinch their division, and then dropping 3 of 4 against Arizona. No off days in between those. Maybe today, I got to imagine today is a welcome sigh of relief for the Brewers just to kind of maybe relax and get away from baseball here a little bit and get set for these final 6 games on the road, or excuse me, 6 games of the regular season. First 3 on the road against Pittsburgh, and then the next 3 again at home against the Mets. So, but we'll talk some baseball coming up here too. We'll do a little local sports roundup as well as another week of high school football in the books. Blue Gold football, they ended up falling over the weekend to Bethel University, 51-30. But hey, shout out to the men's soccer team with an upset win over Chicago too. So that was a big win for men's soccer there too. But we'll do a little local sports roundup coming up a little bit later on here this morning. News segment Monday. Probably saw it if you follow the Facebook pages and such. But I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. So it's kind of like a little overreaction Monday here, but we got our own twist here. All right. So, for example, the example I used, I'm not saying Malik Willis is the best quarterback in the league, but I'm just saying he might be better than any quarterback the Bears have had. Kind of can have a little fun with it, can be serious, whatever you want. But after the weekend's games, whether it's baseball, whether it's football or college football, whatever the case may be, best ones will get featured, get shout outs on the air. So I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, hit me up with yours via the text line, social media, video streams, all that good stuff. All right. So best ones will get shout outs on the air over there too. So, but shall we jump right into it? Huh? Another victory for the Pack with no Jordan Love. Malik Willis, as much as he downplayed it, got a little revenge against his former team. Same for Braden Arvison too, if you will. But we'll talk a little Malik Willis. We'll talk a little bit about Packers offense. Packers defense, though, coming to play in this game after allowing an open, or I should say, it was the Titans' opening drive. Titans, after the Packers go down the opening drive and score a touchdown, Titans able to go down there and tie it up. But then the Packers kind of locking it down there until the third one. Tennessee put up a touchdown there too. But that was it. 8 total sacks from the Packers, 2 interceptions, fumble recovery as well. This was, I think, a game that, again, last week we were talking about. Well, you look at the percentage of, uh, you know, pressures, blitzes that are on Will Levis. Maybe this is that opportunity for the defense to rack up some sacks after the first couple weeks. Kind of been quiet, and they responded. They responded with 8 total sacks, but maybe not everything was kosher on the defensive side. Kind of explain that coming up here in just a little bit too. So, your thoughts, your analysis, your scouting reports from the game yesterday. And I know we got a big one coming up this weekend against Minnesota, and we've got plenty of time to talk about that throughout this week. But for today's purposes, let's kind of focus on the Titans game here, shall we? So we'll take that first break and then get things rolling on this Victory Monday. Packers picking up a 30-14 victory. Your instant reactions on this Victory Monday. We'll get to that coming up after these quick words. Oh, it was a fun time last Friday. We were up over at Blue Marble Pub for to kick off Oktoberfest over there, but we did a live podcast, Man Cave podcast. Brandon and myself did over there. Hopped into the mobile man cave and drove over there. But we grilled out some. We did a little taste testing of some brats from Mike's Star Markets over there too. Our good friends from Mike's Star Markets. So if you're getting ready, or if you're doing a little tailgating, maybe this weekend. I know a lot of people probably, actually, quite a few people I saw going to this. Were at this previous game yesterday too, in Tennessee there. But I know a lot of people are going to be making the trek on 29 East of 29 for the game this weekend in Green Bay. So if you are going to be doing a little tailgating, you want to pick up your brats from our good friends over at Mike's Star Market. You know, Claire, the Bloody Mary brats, the Man Cave Light brats over there, Oktoberfest brats as well. Fantastic selections, or maybe you need some snack sticks. Those Bloody Mary ones are my favorite over there. But check out our good friends at Mike's Star Market, the west side of Eau Claire, for the meats, for the grill, for your tailgating season, or for hunting season. Now that we are underway for bow and such, I was talking to them last week. They've already gotten quite a few deer dropped off over there. So if you're looking for somewhere to take your deer processed, Mike's Star Market, it's your place. Just check them out on Facebook. They've got all the details, pricing, options, and all that posted up on their Facebook page. Let's get things rolling here this morning. The leadoff. Packers 30-14 victory over the Tennessee Titans. Packers putting up 17 points in the first quarter, scoring in every quarter. Malik Willis, 13 of 19 for 202 yards, one touchdown, finished with a quarterback rating of a 120.9. Also led the team in rushing, 6 carries for 73 yards. Packers overall, 37 carries for a buck 88, 188 yards on the ground, going up against the Tennessee Titans. 5.1 average. 5.1 average per carry there. Let's start off with the offense, and we're going to get to the defensive side here because obviously a lot to talk about on the defensive side here. But I mean, again, I think that's another tip of the cap. Another tip of the cap to Matt LaFleur and the offense. This was rewinded a bit. The concern I had, or maybe the question I had that made me a little bit nervous heading into this game on Sunday was Green Bay going to lose that element of surprise that they had against against the Colts in week 2? That okay, we knew that they wanted to run the ball, but what else? Like, how were they going to run the ball? Were they just going to straight up line up I formation, power football, and just go at it? Well, Matt LaFleur opened up some bag of tricks, right? So now you put that all on film. You couldn't really come out and do the exact same thing that you did with the Colts. You couldn't. So what do? They started off the game by making a couple big throws. Obviously, the big throw to Jane Reed was a lot of yak yards after catch, but you had the big throw to Christian Watson and such. So Malik Willis threw the deep ball a little bit more in this one, kind of keeping it a little bit more honest. So you add in that little bit of a wrinkle there. And Malik Willis, Matt LaFleur deserves a ton of credit. The offensive line deserves a ton of credit. The receivers deserve a ton of credit. Malik Willis deserves some credit, though, too. Malik Willis deserves a lot of credit for this. I know a lot of us have been, praising Matt LaFleur and such, but Malik Willis going out there and playing efficient, effective, solid football, you got to tip your cap to him, too. And we saw what I think yesterday was the game that when Malik Willis, we go back to a couple years ago when he was coming through the draft process. The positives with him were good arm strength, mobile, athletic. We saw that on display yesterday. That game yesterday was easily, and I know there's not a big sample size for it, but that was easily Malik Willis's best game of his career. And it displayed the positive attributes that he has that was highlighted throughout the draft process. That's the quarterback that people who were very high on Malik Willis in the draft process, what we saw yesterday from Malik Willis was exactly why they were high. Showed off his arm strength, but showed off his ability to use his legs and be kind of a running quarterback. Kind of felt weird, for how many years as a Packers fan, when you're going up against mobile quarterbacks and you're getting gashed all over the place, it's kind of nice to be on the opposite side of that for once, got to say. But, I mean, Christian Watson with a couple big catches, ended up finishing with 67 yards. Jayden Reed, doing his thing over there too. But Emmanuel Wilson, what a change of pace type of back he is. Jacobs, 14 carries, still the main guy there, 43 yards. But Emmanuel Wilson, 12 carries for 50 yards. May not seem like a ton. But I think it was, and you look at his catch, his first career touchdown, that screen pass, that whole play was just kind of a thing of beauty. It developed perfectly. Malik Willis getting the pressure in his face, doesn't panic. Nice little throw to Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson following his blocks, the offensive line, getting to the second, getting to the third level, scampering in for a touchdown. I mean, that was like executed so beautifully, so perfectly. It was poetic. But Emmanuel Wilson, I think, kind of showed too, if people weren't familiar with him outside of Green Bay, kind of showed he has a little burst. You look at him and you may not think like that's a guy that's got a little burst to him. He's got a little burst to him. So when you look at the box score numbers for Emmanuel, 50 yards rushing, okay, 35 yards receiving, touchdown. Watch the tape. Watch the actual game, and you can see that he just has a little bit of something different there. But again, and Matt LaFleur talked about it in his locker room after the game. But another performance from these wide receivers in the blocking game and such. I mean, these guys are going out there and they're playing physical football. These receivers are playing incredibly physical football, especially in the run game. And the last few years we talk about receivers and the negative parts about them. You hear people saying, "Oh, receiver drama, this, that, the other." These dudes, for all the talk about who's the number one, do they need a number one? These guys just go out there. They're kind of the best way I can describe these Packers receivers: blue collar, taking your lunch pail to work. Let's go. They're good. They're not afraid to be physical. They're not afraid to get in the blocking. Just go do the job. Do the job that's at hand. Not going to complain that they're not getting enough targets. Not going to complain that they're not getting enough receiving yards or touchdowns. Let's put on our hard helmet, in this case our helmet, and let's go out there and do the job to help the team win. I love this mindset of this receiving group, that they just go out there and get the job done. Hey, once in a while, receiver might just have that game where they're over 100 yards and they're lighting it up, couple touchdowns, whatever. We saw a little bit of that last year towards the stretch. It was that guy's week. It was Bo Melton's week. It was Jayden Reed's week. It was Romeo. It was Christian Watson. It was Dontayvion Wicks. But these guys have this mindset that they just go in for the team. Let's do what we got to do. We got to block today. We're going to block today. We're going to open it up in the passing game. All right, let's show off that we are playmakers. Offensive line, I mean, for the most part, first of all, Malik Willis did get a couple sacks, 3 sacks overall there. The issue I have on the offensive line, Rasheed Walker is not off to a great start. Penalties. Elton Jenkins got called for a couple holds. Rasheed Walker, again, I mean, he's one of the most penalized offensive linemen in the league. Not sure what's going on there with Walker. And I get, you're getting the illegal formation stuff. It's not just Green Bay. We're seeing a lot of teams getting flagged for that. I mean, remember the opener with Baltimore and Kansas City and such? The whole narrative around that is that officiating crew of the NFL is really kind of hammering it the first few weeks, and then maybe they'll back off a little bit, trying to set that idea with teams. So I'll be curious to see if it's still called at the level that it's called, in a couple weeks. But still, no excuses. I mean, I feel bad for Jacobs at a lot of these times too. I mean, it feels like some of his big runs are and then they're called back after, laundry's on the field with those yellow flags. And that it's unacceptable. It's inexcusable, whether it's coaching, whether it's just boneheaded mental errors. And I get, the whole zone run thing. Sometimes offensive linemen are put in a compromising position and it just, it's wrong place, wrong time sort of thing. But when you consistently wipe out some of these big plays, you do that against some really good teams. You do that against the Vikings coming up this weekend. You look at the Texans in that game, they were penalized all over the place. Can't give good teams extra plays, or you can't take away your big plays against good teams. They've got to clean up the offensive penalties. They have got to clean up the penalties on the offensive line. They got to get better. Rasheed Walker's got to get better at that. Has to. But player-wise, offensive line, I mean, I thought they held up on their own. I mean, there was a lot of time. We saw it. Tennessee was loading up. They were trying to get after Malik. They were going to go out there and stop that run. I mean, how many times did we see like 8 guys right on that line of scrimmage for Tennessee? Manuel Wilson was picking up blocks. I mean, so blocking-wise, offensive line, running backs and such, tight ends, besides Luke Musgrave getting blown up on that one by Arden Key, overall, I thought it was pretty darn solid offensively. But again, I got to give a little bit of a tip of the cap to Matt LaFleur because I'll circle back here a little bit. My concern or my worry heading in this game was you're losing the element of surprise. So what do you have left there? And again, Matt LaFleur just seems to be a step ahead. And I don't want to get into the Minnesota game yet, but I will say this. After Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for Minnesota, last couple weeks, essentially shutting down Kyle Shanahan, shutting down Bobby Slowick. Two guys, Shanahan systems, similar style offenses as Matt LaFleur. It's going to be a good test. Can Matt LaFleur figure out what maybe Shanahan and Bobby Slowick couldn't do these last couple weeks going up against Minnesota's defense? If LaFleur can do that and stay one step ahead of Brian Flores, Matt LaFleur's going to be rolling here too. But we got plenty of time to talk about that throughout the week. Well, it's a victory Monday right now. We get to enjoy it here a little bit. Defensively, Packers defense, a lot of us thought, a lot of speculation out there. Could this be the game that we're going to see this pass rush, that we're going to see the Packers finally maybe rack up some sacks here? We looked at the numbers, the next-gen stats. A lot of teams, first couple weeks, Will Levis. Nobody was pressured more. Nobody was blitzed more. Well, Packers, they hit a home run on that narrative. 8 total sacks from the Packers yesterday. Kiki, Kingsley, Enagbare, 1.5. Preston, 2. Devontae Wyatt's got 3 sacks so far this season. Had 2 yesterday. Lucas Van Ness with a sack. Isaiah McDuffie and Quay Walker getting charged or credited with a half sack each. Edrin Cooper also getting credited with a half sack on there too. But yeah, 8 sacks. And not only that, of getting after Will Levis, Tony Pollard, 6 carries. Tennessee only ran the ball 11 times yesterday. Tony Pollard, 6 carries, 14 yards. Will Levis, 3 carries, 12 yards. Spears, 2 carries, 7 yards. Not allowing, well, first of all, Tennessee didn't run the football a whole lot, but really not allowing Tony Pollard in the running game to get going here either. So up front, those guys, I thought did a fantastic job. Secondary, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was kind of looking like a little bit of the younger version of DeAndre Hopkins there. I mean, that touchdown catch against Aaron Stokes, that was just a grown man play. I mean, good throw by Will Levis. That was just a grown man play by DeAndre Hopkins there. But their big play guy, Calvin Ridley, who was coming off of a pretty solid game against the Jets the week prior. 1 catch. Only 3 targets. You didn't hear his name until he finally caught a ball late in the game yesterday. So credit to the secondary for essentially taking them out of the game, taking out perhaps their biggest passing game threats. It was fantastic. Xavier McKinney with another interception at the end to keep his streak going of a pick in the first 3 games. And then Jaire reading the play perfectly to get that pick 6 that it kind of felt like after that, it was almost like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a day now. It was going to be a day now. The one of the things that, though, if I got to pick a negative thing, if I got to pick a questionable thing, I got to go with some of the linebacking play. It sure seemed like, and I know it was a little bit of a zone, but it sure seemed like what the Titans really wanted to go after was Quay Walker in coverage, was to go after these linebackers in coverage. I mean, credit to Tennessee and Callahan for exploiting that and attacking it. But I mean, earlier on in the game, it seemed like Tyler Boyd was going to maybe have himself a game, and Tyler Boyd only finished with 3 catches for 33 yards. But when Tyler Boyd was making those catches, who was on it? It was Quay Walker, or it was Quay Walker's zone. So that to me was like, okay, they're going to attack this today. They're going to go after that in the passing game. So that's the one thing, and I got to imagine other teams are going to look at this on film, and maybe O'Connell with Minnesota is going to look at it on film and like, okay, how can we maybe take it up a notch here? And that's something Green Bay's got to fix, and they got to adjust, and they got to get better at. But overall, defensively, I mean, I think you got to tip your cap to a lot of guys here. The fact that they've already got the same amount of, was it the same amount, or did they pass it out? Eight total turnovers, 7 interceptions compared to last year's. I mean, they've already matched that. Come on now. And I think you're seeing an improved secondary play, but look who your defensive coordinator is. He's a secondary coach. He's a defensive backs coach. Shouldn't be that big of a surprise that one of the biggest improvements is the secondary. Now, you've also gotten a lot of talent in there. Xavier McKinney is such a huge upgrade at that safety position compared to what the safety group was last year. But Eric Stokes, I think, is having a solid year. No Carrington Valentine in this game. Haven't really been hearing Keyshawn Nixon's name a whole lot, which is not a bad thing. Kind of means he's doing a pretty darn good job. So, impressions on the defense overall after a first week where it seemed like there were some miscommunications, line up wrong in some cases, and that last couple weeks, it's been a nice bounce back performance the last couple weeks here for this defense. There's no question about it. You can argue about the talent of offenses that they've gone up against and such, but you only have to you could only play who's on the schedule. And kind of an interesting nuggets that's out there. The 3 quarterbacks. So through the first 3 weeks as of today, most turnovers this season. Okay, the top 3: Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts. What's a common theme there? Packers defense has played all 3 of those guys. Will Levis has 8 turnovers this season. Packers just beat him. Anthony Richardson in week 2. Jalen Hurts week 1. The top 3 quarterbacks in terms of turnovers, all 3 have gone up against this Packers defense. Don't know if that's a correlation. Don't know if that's a connection per se over there. Thought it was kind of an interesting little number. So if I'm handing out some game balls, actually, I don't. Everybody does hand out some game balls and such. If I'm going to tip my cap to some people on this from this game, I'm tipping my cap again to Malik Willis. I'm tipping my cap to the defensive front, getting after the quarterback. Those formations that we talked about last week were Halfley throws out the defensive ends, essentially, is taking out defensive tackles on obvious third down passing situations. He takes out the D tackles and just loads up on his defensive ends of Van Ness and Gary and Preston and Enoch Barre, and then he'll blitz like a Quay Walker or a Cooper, just going after the quarterback. There, they got home a couple times yesterday, so I got to tip my cap to the front, the defensive front, those lines, and in the secondary too. I got to tip my cap to them, and I'm going to tip my cap to the receivers. I just feel like I am so impressed with this receiving group. It just seems like they are such a selfless group. I mean, the receivers, there's receivers that we'll tag them as drama. It's that receiver drama. They're getting mad when they're not getting the ball thrown to them. They're getting mad if they're not getting their catches. And you got dudes who are just getting paid a lot of money right now. You don't really hear anything about this group. And I know they're still young, and maybe they don't have that they don't have the resume of some of those receivers where they can go out there and demand the ball and demand, to be the focal point of the offense. None of these receivers have that, but this group is just such a selfless group that they'll just go out there and do the job to get the W. I love this group. This is one of my favorite groups on this team, perhaps maybe my favorite group, just because they're willing to do the dirty work. Don't block, don't get the rock. I love that mindset. So if I got to tip my cap to a few people, it's, again, you tip it to Malik, you tip it to Matt LaFleur, I tip it to the wide receiving group, and I'm going to tip it to the defensive front of this Packers team. That's where I'm going with it. Overall, I think it's another solid team win against a team that was pretty desperate on their home field after a week of a lot of question marks and fans calling out their quarterback and even their head coach kind of calling out their quarterback. Maybe in some instances, that's brewing up to be like a bounce back win. Green Bay shut it down. The fact that you go 2-0 with your backup quarterback, who has only been around for about a month now, I'll take that 11 times out of 10. I'll take that 20 times out of 10. To go 2-0 with a backup quarterback that's only been around a month, couple weeks, few weeks. I don't care who they're playing. I don't care if it's the worst team in the league to still get that W, get 2 Ws, to go 2-0. You get excited about that and you get pumped about that. And I think there's a hope with this, but I think these last 2 weeks too, maybe Matt LaFleur has grown a little bit as a play caller. Gotten to know a little bit more about his team. Maybe he has a few tricks up his sleeves, or maybe realizes, hey, when Love's back, we can do this, we can do that. We can even be more dynamic offense. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we will finish up the first hour. We got baseball talk as well. Final week of the regular season. Brewers still in it for the top 2, but maybe settling on a 3 spot. You're looking for your first home, maybe a new home, or maybe you're looking for that parcel of land to put up a cabin or camper, or your very own hunting land. Woods and Water Realty, your real estate store, is the place to check out. Just check out woodsandwater.com for all the listings up there. And hey, maybe you will find that new kind of escape, that oasis, your new hunting land or a cabin or your first time home or new home. So woodsandwater.com, your real estate store. One other another thing I want to talk about with Malik Willis, and it's kind of becoming a thing now after this game. You're hearing more fans talk about it and such, and I'm not saying it's wrong. But you're hearing more fans talk about, hey, the way Malik Willis is playing, maybe cash in and get some high picks for next year. Find that team and you could trade him and maybe get a nice pick in return. I get it. I understand that's where a lot of thought process because he's not going to. Hopefully, Jordan Love's going to be the starter for a while here and for the foreseeable future. I understand the thinking, but at the same point, I'm good. We don't need to trade him. Okay, we don't need to trade him for a pick. If we have a good backup for once in our Packers career, or at least I should say for the first time in a while, I'm good. Okay, I'm not in a hurry to move on from him. I won't even be in a hurry to move on from him in the offseason. If he sticks around and he's the backup for the next few seasons, I'm okay with that. I'm tickled as punch with that. I understand the thinking here is like, oh, cash in on a guy, puts in a couple good games there, quarterback needy team in that. I get it. But at the same time, I'm okay with him being our backup for however long it's going to be. If he decides whenever he is a free agent to go test the market and somebody's giving him a big deal, good for him. But if it ends up he's staying in Green Bay for a few years to be the backup, good. I'm good either. I'm good with that. Okay. So I think we just got to take a deep breath, kind of step back from it a little bit with the whole, let's trade him for high picks talk. Rather have that backup quarterback that, again, we go back to the beginning of the year, right? It was a question in training camp and before the season started. Is that backup quarterback good enough to win games? Do we have that guy on that roster? Well, 2-0 right now with our backup quarterback, and I think it's that answer is like, yeah, we're good enough with that dude out there. All right, a few texts to catch up on. Jeremy saying, so all game I kept thinking Wilson looks better than Jacobs, which is true, but me being a Jacobs fan, realizing that Jacobs could have even been better, had even better numbers, but it seems like whenever he gets a big chunk play, they have a penalty. So I'm not saying, but just saying Wilson looks better than Jacob. That's a good one there, Jeremy. C-Bomb saying, love this team. Not a single me guy on the roster. They play together to win. So refreshing in today's game. This team is so fun to watch. Penalties, I get some holding. They grab jersey defenders zig when we zag, and it's a call. What I feel needs cleaning is Smith lining up in the neutral zone early. Instead of holding them to a field goal, they gave Tennessee a new set of downs, and they scored a touchdown, 4 points. We'll swing at a lot of games. Can't have mental errors. Good point. Good point. G-Man saying DK victory Monday is awesome. The Pack played defense like I have not seen in a while. We have a quarterback that can run the ball in Jacobs and number 31 also. And when we throw to our wideouts, the short yard pass works. Wow, go Pack, go. And the Brewers won. What a day yesterday. Go Brewers, G-Man. His game ball goes to Wilson. He had a game. I want a number 31 jersey, Wilson jersey. Can't drive, but if I could, I'd go to the VFW on Star Avenue and get you a Victory Monday taco omelet. Go, Pack, go. You keep healing up there, G-Man. You keep healing up there. But, yeah, no doubt. I think anybody listening right now, if you can head out for a little Victory Monday breakfast, you might want to head over to the VFW Post 305. Taco omelet does sound pretty darn amazing right now. If you haven't been in the VFW Post 305 to check that out, you are missing out. You're missing out over there. Keep these coming, all right? Hit us up with those texts, 715-830-1912, or you can comment on the video screen or hit me up on the X/Twitter at DANKASPER, facebook.com/Casper Sports. I know a lot of you have a lot of thoughts on this game here too, and I know we got quite a few comments on social media, so we'll get to those coming up here in a little bit. I want to throw out there because I didn't mention it in the beginning, but JC in the EC, Justice Cleveland, Sports Scene 13 will be joining us from 7 to 8, so we'll do a little local sports roundup with him after another busy I should say, last few days of prep sports, blue gold sports, stout sports, all that. So JC will be in here to help break it down for all of us, including Eau Claire North getting the victory over Memorial in the Crosstown Showdown. But more games to hit up for sure. So we'll talk about that with Justice in the next hour. Brewers, let me ask you a question, Brewers fans. Are you a little concerned about your Brewers team now as we inch closer to the postseason? Are we starting to get a little concerned, or are you kind of chalking up this Diamondback series to a little celebration hangover? Dropping 3 out, or maybe the other part of it too is like they were playing a lot of games back to back, no off day. Maybe kind of caught up to them a little bit. Off day today to kind of reset, to get the mind right, to get the body rested and right. But where are you at on this Brewers team now with the final week of the regular season here? And it sure looks like they're going to be the 3 seed. They got a little work to do, and they need a lot of help for them to catch up into that top 2. But where's your status level? Where are you at? Where's your feelings at surrounding this this Brewers team after what you saw these last 4 games against the Diamondbacks? You know, pitching wise, what is your concern? Maybe is it the offense? Even though they did put up 10 runs yesterday, is it the pitching? You had Frankie Montas struggling a little bit yesterday. Where is it at? If you could if you could put your finger on it a little bit. So I want to talk some baseball. I mean, it's going to be a crazy finish to the season. We got teams who have clinched spots, but some teams who have clinched spots haven't necessarily clinched their division yet. We got teams still battling out for positioning to try to get in the wild card. I mean, that American League now is getting kind of nuts there. I mean, the Tigers, holy moly, where'd they come from? They're in this thing here. I don't know. Tigers might be the team you don't want to play when you're in the postseason. Especially American League might get a little bit interesting once we get to that postseason. Yes, Yankees and the Guardians currently right now your top 2 teams over there, but man, do you want to play the Tigers with kind of the momentum they're riding in here? Ow. So plenty of baseball talk coming up. Don't forget to new segment Monday. Not saying, but I'm just saying. Fill in the blanks. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. It's similar to a little overreaction Monday. Similar, but you know, we've all used that phrase at one point in time, right? I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. We had Jeremy's example over there. Had another example. I'm not saying Malik Willis is the best quarterback in the league, but I'm just saying he might be the best one, or he might be better than any other Bears one in history. Sorry, Bears fans, I have to. I can't pick on the Vikings because they're playing really good football and they've gotten some really good wins here. So I gotta pick on somebody right now, and right now it's the Bears. So I got them. That's the only team in the division I can pick on right now. So best ones, good ones, I'll give you shout outs for those. Not saying, but I'm just saying. All right. Also, weekend hangover too. Your highs and your lows, your best and your worst from the weekend. One in. We'll get back to some more Packers talk coming up in the next hour. Brewers talk as well. local sports roundup. Keep your thoughts coming. Quick break. We've got some news updates, and we'll be back here in just a few minutes. Second hour kicks off right now. Happy Victory Monday, everybody. How y'all doing here this morning? Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you're tuning in. A little foggy out there, it looks like. So, hey, if you're driving, make sure your lights are on too, right? Make sure you're driving. Don't text us. You can wait to yell at me when you pull over or get to work or school or wherever you're going to be going. All right, that can wait here a little bit. So, but be safe out there on the roads until it clears up and such. But regardless, thanks for tuning in to us. However, wherever you are, we're going to get back to some more Packers talk on this Victory Monday. A 30-14 victory for the Packers to improve to 2-1, 2-0 in the Malik Willis era of this Packers team. It sure seems like Jordan Love is probably going to be back for this game against Minnesota at Lambeau Field. Practiced all last week, had pregame workouts and such, but sure seems like all signs are pointing to him to return to Minnesota, which right now is a very big early season game with Minnesota 3-0 and big wins against 49ers and Texans, two teams with high aspirations, high goals this year of winning a championship. And credit to Minnesota. They shut them down offensively. In their offense, Sam Darnold is playing well. Aaron Jones is playing well. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's playing well. So got to give Minnesota a lot of credit. But this could be a big game coming up this Sunday at Lambeau Field to kind of finish up the first quarter. Or, I know the math don't work out that perfectly there, but you know what I mean. So, but plenty of time to talk about that game throughout the week. We got a Victory Monday, so that's what we're kind of focusing on here right now. We're gonna get to local sports roundup a little bit later on here with Justice Cleveland, Sports Scene 13. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes and such. So we'll get to that. We've got Brewers chat as well. Brewers though, fans, how do you where's your comfort level? Where's your level at with this team right now? Are you a little concerned with how they're playing as we inch closer and closer to the postseason? Or are you of the mindset, maybe a little celebration hangover? They played 13 in a row. They just need that off day, which is today. Not too concerned right now. If the postseason started today, according to MLB.com, National League, it would be Brewers, Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks now the 60 because the Mets are playing really well. Mets are the 5th seed. Padres playing really well too. So that's your 4-5. Dodgers are in that 1 spot. Phillies are in the 2 spot. Brewers are 4 back from the top spot, 3 back from the 2nd spot. But again, they don't hold any of the tiebreakers. American League, Tigers. Man alive. They're playing some really good baseball right now. They'd be playing the Astros. Playoffs started. Kansas City would be taking on Baltimore. Cleveland and the Yanks get the byes. Yeah, the one team that if the postseason started today, that wouldn't be in there. I mean, you're looking at the Twins right now. There, you got to be a little concerned if you're a Twins fan, right? You gotta be a little concerned whether you're going to make the playoffs or not. Now they're just 1 back. They're just 1 game back, but 3-7 in their last 10 games. Kansas City, though, has been really bad. Lost 7 in a row. 7 in a row. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Seattle's just 2 back from a wild card spot. Seattle's taking on Houston in a big division series. So, I mean, you're looking at Major League Baseball, and you're looking at where everything's kind of lined up. This is going to be a heck of a final week of this regular season here. You got the Yankees taking on Baltimore starting tomorrow. Now, the Yankees, Baltimore hasn't been playing well either. They're 3-7 in their last 10. So, Baltimore wants any shot. I mean, they're 6 games back, though, from the Yankees. But maybe they want to really solidify that top wild card spot. This is a big series for them coming up here, too. But Detroit's going up against Tampa Bay. Just kind of looking at the schedule for some of these playoff teams. Kansas City's going up against Washington. Minnesota is going to be going up against the Marlins there. As we mentioned, Houston taking on Seattle. That's going to be a big series here too. Seattle's 5 games behind Houston for the division, but Seattle just 2 back from that wild card. Then we're looking at the National League. We got a big series starting tomorrow. The Mets visiting Atlanta. The Mets are 7-3 in their last 10 games. And right now, if the playoffs started, Atlanta wouldn't be in the postseason. They're 2 back from a wild card spot. They're chasing teams like the Mets. So you got a big time series coming up there too. Phillies are going to be taking on the Cubs. We know the Brewers are going to be taking on Pittsburgh starting tomorrow. And then the Dodgers, another big series here too. San Diego is just three games back from the Dodgers. For all the talk about the Dodgers, 93 wins, most in the National League. San Diego's got 90. They still got a shot to potentially really maybe kind of win this. Not kind of. They potentially could still win this division. They're playing some amazing baseball. 8-2 in their last 10. They have won 4 games in a row. Diamondbacks, the other team in here too. They're in the wild card spot. They're 6 back from their division right now. But we're doing a little scoreboard watching here too. Brewers, Brewers wise, it seems like okay. Hate to call it right now. They're not mathematically out of it for one of those top 2 spots, but they got to take care of their own business in these final 6 games, and they're going to need some help here because the Brewers are 4 games back from the top spot, 3 games back, as we mentioned, from that second spot. Don't hold any of the tiebreakers, so they got to take care of their business, but they also need quite a bit of help. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that the Brewers are going to be the 3 seed. That's where they're going to be at. And now you're kind of looking like, okay, if they're the 3 seed, it's sure looking like it's going to be either the Diamondbacks or the Mets at this point. Maybe the Braves if they could get back into this thing if they have a good series against the Mets coming up here. So are you concerned with how the Brewers are playing heading into the series, or are you like, I'm kind of 50-50 on it, to be honest. Like, yeah, that was a crappy series against the Diamondbacks. It's good to see that they still had some grit and bounced back and made that comeback yesterday down 8. But this week, I want to see them kind of get, all right, back to form here. You got an off day. You got a time to a little regroup. There was no rest after clinching. You've played 13 in a row. I want to see this team in these next 6 games put together a good stretch here. It'll be interesting, though, because if they get to that Mets series and the Mets have a lot to play for, how do the Brewers play it if they're kind of locked into that 3 spot, knowing they may potentially play the Mets too. So it's going to be an interesting week. Still a lot of movement potentially here too for a lot of teams in this playoff hunt. All right, tell you what, I'm just going to take a really, really, really quick break here. That way we can get JC in here, unlock the doors, and get Justice in here too. So we'll take a very quick break here. We'll get back to some more Packers talk. We'll get to the local sports roundup and more Brewers talk too. So quick break. We'll be back in like 2 minutes. Told you it'd be a quick break. We literally just had to unlock the door for our main guy, JC in the EC, Justice Cleveland.
I was out there in tears. I'm thinking Dan was never going to let me in.
With the fog rolling around
Yeah.
you, too. It was like a 1980s rom-com sort of thing.
Yeah. Rom-com or horror movie?
Yes.
I
Because
don't know what's
horror
going on
movies
here,
are
but
rom-coms,
you know what?
right? You know.
You had me at rom-com.
How you doing, man?
Doing good. Doing good.
Yeah. Good weekend?
Yeah.
Good deal.
Like every weekend.
Yeah.
But
that is how it goes.
It was a
though,
beautiful
so.
weekend, so I can't dispute the beauty of it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it was very nice.
I know we're going to do a little local sports roundup coming up in a little bit here, but I want to go back to a little Packers talk here quick. Another week, no Jordan Love, seems like no problem. Malik Willis, another solid game. We've talked about the defense and their 8 sacks and such, but I guess just kind of your analysis from what you saw in the victory against the Titans yesterday.
I mean, I saw a team that was out there executing and not looking like they were missing a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Like if week one with Willis, you can kind of see, they're holding back. They're not really. I felt like in the first half, especially, they kind of felt like they knew what they had.
Yeah.
And there wasn't too much, crossing of confusion. And, I think maybe we actually saw more in the second half than we did anything, but I was impressed. I mean, Willis just looked out there solid, like a different guy from what he was when he was with the Titans and the little cup of coffee he had with them. I mean, it was fun to watch. It really wasn't. The defense was playing well. You got a little nervous in the second half because I felt like they kind of pulled back the reins a little bit, and we're like, okay, I think it was like the 3rd and 6 at like midfield, and they ran the ball, and then they didn't go for it because then now is there trust issues with Narvison?
Right, exactly.
So you're just starting to get a little nervous, like, Titans are still in striking distance, but that defense, I was more than impressed by the way they stepped up every time they needed to there, especially in the fourth quarter, and just put a stop to whatever the Titans' momentum they had. So all in all, you got to look at it. It's like, yeah, obviously there's still stuff to build on, but with a backup quarterback going 2-0, it's what you want when you get into this situation, going into a big game now for the division this week.
With Malik, and I know with 2-0 and how well he's playing, you had fans kind of say, well, now we can trade him for a draft pick in the offseason. I'm like, I'm okay with that. No. Yeah, I'd rather have a good backup.
I think that's probably been the problem with the Packers, that they really haven't kept their solid backs. I think Matt Flynn, to me, is like the last guy that they actually had on the roster for a good amount of time. And then he obviously had his breakout and was able to sign as a free agent, but then came back. But I would love for them to have that solid number 2 guy that's there. Now, if somebody makes you the offer,
yeah, if you're a free agent, you get cash in, good for you. Go cash in on that.
But I think, this is a guy I would love to see there because in this day and age in the NFL, the style of offenses you run, more than likely you're going to lose your quarterback.
Right.
It's a lot easier to lose a quarterback now than it ever has been, just because you got concussion protocols, things that weren't there in the past. So if you could have a guy who can come in there and be solid like Malik has been, I say give him some money and keep him and have that insurance policy right there.
Because, we asked that question at the beginning of the year, right? Can their backup go in and win a game?
Yeah.
Malik has answered that the last couple of weeks, that he could go in there and win you games.
And I don't know what, no offense to Sean Clifford, but I don't know if they're in the same spot.
Right.
If Sean Clifford's a starter, because just from what he showed in the preseason, there wasn't a lot there to be real, confident about would be the best way to put it. So considering people were calling for him to start last year.
Exactly. Well, and I think Green Bay would agree with you if they released him initially, Sean Clifford, and then made that move for Malik Willis. They obviously, I think, felt like, we're not confident if he goes in there to help lead, a game to victory and such. So
I think the only confidence thing right now is what is the Narvison situation. Are you any better than you were with Carlson? I feel like you're I don't know. I almost feel like you're in a worse spot. I don't know.
That's the question, that I was kind of going back and forth because, I think a lot of people right now, fans are kind of, if there is a weakness or a big question mark, it's the kicking. You're right. There's that situation where, you could have, if you had a kicker, you're probably going for the field goal. They try to do the draw off the offsides, take the penalty, then they punted it off or whatever. Then it goes back to the question, it's funny because you got people saying, they miss Mason and all that. But it goes back to the question: how patient then are you with Braden Narvison? Because you had to be patient with Mason,
Right.
a couple times over there too. So, should they be patient, or do they look again? I wouldn't be surprised if we hear this week, well, they brought in a couple kickers for a workout. Doesn't mean that they're going to sign them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do that
Right.
this week.
Listening to the broadcast, it sounds like they liked the headspace that Narvison is in compared to
Mhm.
maybe where Carlson was in.
Right.
So I guess that's, is that what it is? It's maybe they feel like he's a little more mold. They
Right.
can mold him a little bit more than they could Carlson, who maybe was stuck more in his ways.
Right.
So again, he's missed one kick so far. It hasn't cost them
Right.
a game. You can say the Philly game, it was at least a
Mhm.
little more detrimental when he missed it there than the
Mhm.
last two. But yeah, I mean, you hate to say it, but you hate to have to come into that point where it's a meaningful kick that ends up.
It's kind of like a golfer's mentality, right? You have
Yeah.
you gotta, if you do miss it or you do struggle, you can't let it fester
No, and he
in
came
your
back and he
mind.
made that kick
Mhm.
later in the game. So I
Right.
think time's going to tell. They're not making a change this week.
No.
There was a part of me, like, you're talking like, oh, they're going to break the kickers in. And like, maybe they do, maybe just to see, but maybe you
Mhm.
don't do that because does that help any kicker's confidence?
Right.
To bring in some, knowing that he's now got to watch over his shoulder the whole time.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's that whole, it kind of goes back to last year when they didn't have kicking competition with Anders.
yeah,
It was just him. And a lot of people kind of question, should they have had a veteran? And they had one, Pat O'Donnell, they had competition in with some guy named Daniel Whalen.
yeah,
And he seems to be doing pretty darn well
right.
right now. So,
And I think that's where they're kind of like they're confident in the punting game.
mhm.
So I think that was kind of where maybe like not taking that field goal. Granted, they didn't have the greatest punting game because there's a lot of
Mhm.
touchbacks, but still, all in all, I mean, we're finding the one thing that maybe is the most glaring of
Mhm.
that whole game. And
Right.
to me, it's the kicking, and it wasn't even really the biggest thing.
Right.
It's just one of those things. Early in the season, you got to figure out where you're going to go with this. And
Mhm.
right now, after what you basically have the same thing happening last year with a different kicker, would it have been just the same if they would have stuck with Carl? That's what my thing. That's what it's like. Was it worth cutting a guy you drafted
Mhm.
for another guy? Well, time will
There's
tell.
it almost feels like you go back to last week's comments about Matt LaFleur when he said he's willing to be patient, but then he's like, but it's up to Goody.
Right.
So I almost got the impression that LaFleur is willing to be a little patient with him. And then in the post-game celebration, he gave a special shout out to Braden Narvison. So I don't know if that's, and I remember, I think it was shortly after, and LaFleur made the comment that Jair even came up to him during practice and was complimenting Braden Narvison. It almost feels like LaFleur's a Braden Narvison guy, or trying to maybe build him up a little
Yeah.
bit, but still kind of being like, but ultimately it's still Goody's decision
Right.
at
Your
that point.
GM's gonna if Gutekunst is sitting up there in the box watching this,
Mhm.
thinking, well, there's another person. But they wouldn't have went with him if they thought there was anybody better out there.
Right.
They went with the guy who they'd seen in preseason, the guy who wasn't even in camp,
Yep.
and they liked what they saw there. So I think you got to give him a few more shots before you make any change.
I mean, you look across the league though too, when you got guys like, was it Aubrey at Dallas who's nailing 65
Right.
yarders and stuff like
I mean,
that.
60-yard field goals are now becoming the
Mhm.
norm.
Yeah.
Like 65 yarders. I mean, it was, when Jason Elam was hit like three or in his career, you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this guy's, now you're seeing guys making it and clearing. I don't know. I mean, I think that record gets closer to, it's like 60. What is the
66, I think. Yeah.
66 is the
Yeah.
record. I think we get 68 here at
Mhm.
some point.
Well,
in the-
did I see, like, even in warmups, was it Tucker a couple weeks ago? They said was hit a 70-yarder in warmups
oh, I believe
or
it.
something like that. It's almost, it reminds me of like pitchers in baseball, where it's like you just want guys that throw hard now. Accuracy might be a little bit off,
Right.
whereas kickers, you probably want distance now, but accuracy might be a little bit off.
Yeah. I think it's tough for Packer fans. And as it, would look with like the quarterback situation. So when you have guys, you went from Ryan Longwell
Mhm.
basically to Mason Crosby.
Yep.
A little bit of cross, a little bit of.
Well, don't dismiss that David Rayner.
Right. Exactly. So you have 20 plus years
Mhm.
of consistent kicking.
Yep.
So fans are just used to having one guy there for a long time.
Mhm.
Spoiled in a bit, yeah, because it doesn't have. That's another thing that doesn't really happen, much
Mhm.
like your quarterback situation of having basically 3 straight.
Yeah.
So
Heck, you could throw in Chris Jackie in there for a little bit too. If you
yeah, I mean
wanted,
they have had the Packers kicking wise have really done well with the guys they've had in there. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's one of those like they're not used to having anybody struggle.
Right.
So
If I had to pick between the two, I'd rather have them get the quarterback one right every single time over
right.
a kicker one. But
I will say this: here's how telling how good the Packers are doing. We're sitting here talking about a kicker missing a field goal, but it had nothing to do with
yeah,
the outcome of
it
the
got
game.
negated too. It
Yeah.
doesn't even count as a
Right.
miss.
So yeah, exactly. I think they're sitting pretty good considering
Mhm.
you haven't had your starting quarterback for 2 games.
Right. Yeah, I was talking about it in the first hour, JC. The thing that I think I love most about this team, I'm gonna go back to the receiving group because all offseason, what was the talk about the offseason? This group? Well, who's the number one? Do
Right.
they need a number one? You look at what this group did the last 2 weeks now. The To me seems like because when we talk about receivers too, a lot of it is like number one drama. Got to get his catches. Got to get all these accolades. They get paid a lot. This seems like one of the most selfless groups out there.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, to go out there and, as Matt LaFleur said last week, put your blocking gloves on. To see Christian Watson going out there, I mean, not even being essentially part of the game plan last week, makes a couple catches this week, but to go out there and essentially do what they got to do to win the ball game.
Yeah. I think maybe it's the best thing is that they're all young.
Yeah.
And they all have it's not personal accolades they're thinking about team accolades.
Yep.
And they're going out there and like you said, they're blocking, they're running whatever scheme, because there's a lot of movement
Yeah.
in those pre-snaps.
Mhm.
And all those guys are going in motion and there's a chance either any of them could run the ball at a moment too. So
Right.
I've been excited to watch that part. Even like what I liked, I know it had nothing really to do with the game. In the fourth quarter, Malik misses that pass to Reed.
Mhm.
And Reed, you can tell there's a little frustration there.
Yep.
But you could see them all come together. He goes to Matt LaFleur, Reed,
Yep.
or Willis does, and then you see him and Reed on the sideline talking about it. And that's an open discussion. That's not like nothing to throw Rodgers on but it's not like Rodgers getting mad,
Right.
storming off.
And then kind of shunning him a little bit. Yeah.
No, these guys are all, I think that's the biggest keys. They're all young. Malik Willis is still really young.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody there has that mindset. It's fun to watch. It really is. It's kind of like the Brewers where you have maybe a veteran or two in there, but really it's so many young guys that you're excited because you don't know what could really happen next.
Right. Exactly. So we know we got a big one coming up on Minnesota, and
Defense is going to be
that's
in
what
the spotlight for this one.
I'm really intrigued with this matchup of LaFleur and Brian Flores, considering Flores last 2 weeks has essentially shut down two very similar offenses, Kyle Shanahan and Slowick now with Houston, which is still weird to say Slowick because of Green Bay's. I know yours, especially with the Green Bay history there.
I was like 10, 12 years younger than me in high school.
Yeah.
Green Bay Southwest.
So, I mean, it's two similar offense. If LaFleur can dial up something that those two guys weren't able to do, I mean, that to me is going to be interesting to watch coming up.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the way that the Vikings have been playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything. I think I wouldn't be the only one who saw when McCarthy went down. You're like, oh man, this could be a really bad Minnesota team.
Yeah.
Then you have quarterback come in there and Darnold and just play. I mean, it's funny because you're seeing these first round quarterbacks now come in
right
on different teams and start to show what they can do, which I think always speaks to the fact of, hey, maybe you shouldn't start the guy week one of his first season because now the league's starting to slow down. But yeah, I mean, they have all the weapons on offense you need. Their defense has been playing out of their mind. It's going to really be a big test. I'm really looking at that to see what this Packers defense can keep it up to.
Right.
I mean, they have been playing great, especially at the end of the game yesterday. I mean, you're seeing them get to the quarterback. You're seeing on plays, even when they don't get to the quarterback, it feels like there's always pressure.
Yep.
You don't see these quarterbacks having much time in the pocket, even if they do complete a pass. So, yeah, I think both defenses are going to be in the spotlight, but obviously both offenses. I mean, depending on who's starting at quarterback for the Packers and what game plan they go with. Yeah, it's an intriguing matchup that I don't think a lot of us thought would be like this in week 4 because I think a lot of us thought Vikings weren't going to be this good.
Right.
I'll go on the record and be like one of those guys who did not after the preseason see that team.
I think a lot of people probably picked them as 4th best in the NFC North.
Right. Yeah.
Bears were like all this young talent coming in, and obviously Detroit and Green Bay from last year. To be 3-0 with 2 of those wins coming against the 49ers and Texans, 2 teams that people thought could be Super Bowl contenders. Right. You take that any day. That's a hell of a start to the season.
And I mean, the NFC North is going to be I think, wide open here for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears and their struggles, they can find an offense because their defense, I think, is there.
That's how they beat the Tennessee Titans in week 1 was their
Right.
defense.
So if they can get a little bit of offense going, they're going to
Mhm.
be a tough team the whole year. Detroit's Detroit. I mean, there's enough weapons on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
They're going to be right there. And then, yeah, you get the Vikings and Packers who are playing well to start the season here too.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really fun one. And I'm going to be a nervous Nelly for that game
Yeah,
too.
I think it's going to have a little extra pep to it after
Mhm.
the way the Vikings have started.
Because it seems like that's the game Jordan's going to be back for too. It just seems like that's where all signs are pointing.
Yeah, I mean, if you practice all week and you're running pregame stuff,
yeah,
there was a shot
Mhm.
just in case that but I think they knew with their game plan with
Mhm.
Malik they could probably beat a struggling Tennessee team. But this is a different game, I think, this Minnesota game.
Yep, and I think it was kind of it kind of flew under the radar a little bit during the telecast yesterday, but I think it was Laura Oakham mentioned this when she was talking with Jordan Love. Jordan said there is no pain in his knee, which I think is the big hurdle over there, that he's not dealing with any pain.
Right.
Now, obviously, that's different practice and, going into an actual game and maybe taking some hits over there. But I think that's one of the biggest hurdles to clear is that he's not feeling that discomfort and that pain right now.
Yeah, and that's good to hear. I mean, that's obviously a scary injury because you don't know
Mhm.
what the extent could be if it, they're not going to tell us what the total extent is gonna
Right.
be. But yeah, if he's not feeling pain, if he can go out there and run and feel like he can go close to 100%, I
Mhm.
think he's starting this week.
Yeah. I know we got all week to talk about, but I'm already kind of in. This one's going to be a lot of jawing back and forth between Jair and JJ, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Between these two.
And
But-
Aaron Jones. I mean, I'm
Oh, gosh, yeah.
well, I mean, he's got that little slight
Yep.
he feels. I think
Mhm.
Packer fans, for some reason, pick on him but Aaron Jones wanted to be a Packer, I think, for life.
I think that's and I'm guilty of this, thinking this too. I'm like, oh, Aaron, don't say it. But I don't. He's not when he makes comments like, "Hey, this is some of the most fun that I've had in my career." There's just something about this team. He's not dissing you, Packers fans.
No, it's just something
Yeah.
about being appreciated.
Mhm.
And I think he felt like the way it ended, and I think a lot of running backs are probably feeling that way.
Yeah,
It
and a lot of players too, probably. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't want me, then screw you. Or
Well, it's like Pollard with, how he was the man in Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
and they had no problem.
Yep.
Let him go.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's how with running backs right now, there just isn't a whole lot of when a Derrick Henry can get cut,
Yeah.
traded, whatever, when that can happen, anybody in the league can go.
Mhm.
Josh Jacobs.
Right.
So, yeah, it's unfortunately the market there for running backs isn't there, but it's a reality of what the game is right now. But I think Aaron Jones, I think the world of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I would love to see him be a Packer for his whole life, but it's just unfortunately the economics of the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
Running backs just aren't going to get the money that they probably deserve
Right.
for being in one of the hardest positions in the game.
Right.
So,
And I think this is going to be a good test too with this secondary. Jeff Halfley coming in. Is Jair just going to be shadowed with JJ the whole game? That's something he's wanted the last couple of
Right.
years. So be interesting.
I mean, if you have Xavier McKinney there for help,
Mm-hmm.
that like we saw with that interception at the end of the game,
Right.
Jair's one-on-one, and then
Mhm.
Xavier just comes over and grabs the interception. So I mean, the way he's
Yep.
playing, I like to be able to help. I mean, I don't know what the Jordan Addison situation is with.
Yeah,
him.
he was out this last week, so I'm not sure. But
Right, because I mean that's another weapon.
Yep.
Like if he's not on the field, that definitely helps the Packers there because then
Mhm.
that's one less big threat you have to think about. So.
Right. I think that's going to be a close game. So I hope it's not for Green Bay's sake.
Another
but-
tie.
Oh God, no.
Third time's a charm.
Right. Especially a second one in September too.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we get to local sports, I do want to talk some Brewers. How are you feeling about this team? They clinch. They were this 13-game stretch. They won the series against San Francisco. They won the first series against Arizona. They won the series against Philadelphia. Barely avoid being swept in 4 games. Still are the only team to not lose 4 games in a row here. But with the final week of the regular season now here, I mean, I feel like Brewers are going to be the 3rd seed.
I think, yeah.
They're still not out of it, but they're going to need a lot of help and plus take care of their own business. But from what you saw against this Diamondbacks team, are you more of the mindset of like, you know what? It was 13 games in a row, maybe a little celebration hangover. They just needed an off day and they got that today. Or is this like a crap? They're going to come in sleepwalking into the playoffs again.
I mean, I think definitely the part of the Arizona series was just them put their foot off the gas, especially that game right after when you don't start when Willy Adames starts 152 straight games.
Yeah,
you're like, okay, we're not gonna. That whole game just felt like almost like a spring training game. Like, okay, you guys go out there and just have fun and play. I don't think Fox was probably that jazzed that
right.
they did that for a national game, but yeah, I think the whole series kind of had that feeling of, okay, we're there, we're in the playoffs. This isn't life or death anymore. And I think it was big that they actually came back and won yesterday.
Yep.
You know, you go down 8-0 and it's like, oh my goodness, what is going on with this team? And then you battle back and get the win, showing that there's still spark there.
Yep.
I think they're going to be fine. I think especially I think the Mets series, because the Mets are still battling. That, depending on how it goes in the next couple games. The Mets are, what are they sitting at right now?
Mets are, if the playoffs started right now, according to MLB.com and their postseason bracket, they'd be the 5th seed going up against the Padres.
Okay.
What a series that thing would be.
Yeah, a lot of money
two.
involved in both those teams who've spent the last 2 years have spent a lot.
2 teams playing really well down us.
Yeah.
Padres are going up against the Dodgers, and they're just 3 games back from the division.
Yeah. I think that Padres team's finally hitting to where they should have been for the last 3 years, 2 years. I mean, they've spent so much money on that lineup. That you're like, how is this team not? You know, one of the top teams, obviously, because the Dodgers spend probably more money than them. But the Mets have been the same way. I mean, last year was the incredible amount of money that they basically wasted. And dumped all those guys and come back again. And now they have a shot.
David Stern's first year, too.
That's right. I always forget that so he's got a good track record, doesn't he?
He does. Especially, this was the year, I mean, they shed Scherzer, Verlander, you know, last offseason and then. But, it was.
Not Bobby Bonilla,
no. No, not Bobby. The last I checked this morning, if the playoffs were to start today, it would be Brewers Diamondbacks again.
That's a tough. Obviously because of what just happened, but there's a lot of history there, and I feel like the Diamondbacks have almost been like the Brewers South. I don't know what it is. Something because I mean the stadiums are very similar. I actually got to tour that stadium this past spring.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, very similar out. You know, to AmFam Field too. So I don't know. There's always kind of seemed like these two teams have kind of been parallel to each other. So that's a scary one. It's just all those teams from the West. Yeah, it has been a lot of bad luck for I mean Nationals.
That too.
That didn't help either. So I feel like obviously this team is so scrappy that if they can get some hits or they can do it. But I feel like come the playoffs, it's just they're gonna have to keep being scrappy because I just don't think they're gonna be heavily favored in any series that they actually get into.
I agree. And then I don't know any team that wants to play the Tigers right now.
No.
Holy moly.
When I was sitting waiting to get in, I looked it up. At one point, the Twins were 70-55, 15 games above 500. Since then, they're 11-20.
Wow.
So they were right there knocking on the door. I think they were a game and a half back of the Guardians at one point last month, and now they're sitting a game back.
From a while, yeah.
And this has been a team that we'd seen was streaky, especially at the beginning of the first half of the season, where they went on the long losing streak, winning streak, losing streak, winning. And right now they're on the other end of that, and at the wrong time. So it's going to be tough. I mean, like you said, that Detroit team is just playing out of their mind, and we usually see that. We see a team end of September make one of these runs if there's a chance, and that's the Tigers right now, and the Twins are unfortunately on the other end of that.
Yep, exactly. All right, before we take a quick break here, Big Worm, morning fellas, 2 huge plays from yesterday's game to start out the game with a fake pitch and hitting Reed across the middle, fantastic, and then what a bonehead play by the Titans on the Narveson missed field goal. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying how much of LaFleur's playbook has been on display through 3 weeks. I think we're going to see some trickery on Sunday against the Queens. Have a good one. Well, that was my concern heading into this Titans game was like, if Malik Willis was playing, did we unload the playbook against the Colts? What else did LaFleur credit? You're right. The fake pitch, I think everybody's like, okay, it's going to be run heavy. What does he do? Fake pitch and then just a little crosser to Jayden Reed.
And I feel like he's also not shying away from the run. Even though it was struggling, he's sticking with it, which I feel like compared to, say, like Mike McCarthy, if it wasn't going early, it was like, okay, we're pretty much done. until like December,
How
and
about
then we'll start running the ball again.
how about a tip of the cap to Emmanuel Wilson too?
Yeah. Oh, some of those runs, he was just a
You look at
downhill.
him and it's like he's not a guy that's supposed to have a little burst, but he's got a little burst to him. And I mean, that screen to him was just like I don't think you could draw it up any better.
No, because you're like, oh, he's gonna get. Oh, will he get the first down?
Mhm.
That was the main thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, and he just kept going.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like standing still. It looked like, and he's just
Yep.
zipping through there. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think we see that with a lot of these guys. That you're not, that's the fun thing is that there's just this extra little, I don't know, pep
Mhm.
with this team right now. You're seeing out there, even on defense.
Yep.
Guys not giving up. Van Ness I think is starting to
Oh, yeah.
really come into his own. But a lot of
Devontae
that is,
Wyatt too.
yeah, a lot of that's just because all those other linemen they were collapsing the pocket.
Yep.
And I want to say this, I don't know if I've ever watched it. I felt sorry for Will Levis out there. Because I just feel like he was not put in a position
Mm-mm.
that he was going to succeed. Now, the pick six was his.
Yep.
You make that throw. But it was like watching a guy mentally, like almost like, what can I do?
Well, and I thought it was kind of weird to hear Moose Johnson a couple times, after it was a fumble or a play like that. Okay, let's look at the positives. It was
Right.
just kind of like, okay, I understand what you do, but let's look at the positives.
It's like he was his coach, like
Right.
trying to say, like, okay.
Yeah, trying to boost him up a little bit.
I think
or
after seeing Bryce Young
oh
get
god, yeah,
benched,
yeah.
I think there's now this like, who's next?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody back there for Tennessee is gonna.
Yeah,
You have
Mason
Hopkins.
Rudolph's your backup, I think, right
Yeah,
now.
I mean you have
Yeah.
Hopkins as a receiver, so you
Mhm.
have a
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, I mean you have talented receivers, but it just seems like that line is. I haven't seen like the whiffs we saw from that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that bad of whiffs a lot in a pro game in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, their right tackle ended up getting benched halfway through the game.
Well, I
so.
mean, and justifiably, because I mean,
Yeah.
it was like one move, swim around and in.
Yep.
How do you, if you're a quarterback and you know that's coming,
Right.
how do you have any confidence?
Well, Enoch Barre's one there. I'm like, first of all, how did Will not see him coming?
Yeah,
it was like,
exactly.
and then boom.
Yeah, he got.
Yeah.
I mean, by the end of the game,
Mhm.
it's like I felt sorry for the guy. He's like, what can he do?
Exactly.
Mentally, he's got to be just shot right now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we got to take a quick break here. We'll finish up this hour though. Lots to catch up on the local sports roundup. We had the Crosstown Showdown between North and Memorial on Friday. Blue Gold football as well. They're bye week now this week though, so we'll finish up the second hour with some local sports coming up after these quick words. Youth teams, if you're looking maybe for some new jerseys or some new equipment, or maybe if you're a youth organization and you want to sell some of your swag, Residence Branding Company can help you out. Whether it's looking for those new jerseys for your team to kind of show off their skills on the field, or if you want to raise some money and have one of those online shops, Residence Branding Company can help you out. Just give them a visit at 1728 Spooner Avenue, Suite C in Altoona, or check out their website, ResidenceBrandingCompany.com. Residence Branding Company, the official swag provider for the program. Let's start off. Let's finish off this hour. We got about 10 minutes here with Mr. JC Nisi. Local sports roundup, crosstown rival, crosstown showdown, whatever we're calling it here, intercity rival. Memorial North getting the victory on Friday night.
Big win for North because that's their second straight, and now they're you're back in competition for a playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a couple more wins. You can find a way to get in there, which would be huge for North. I mean, that as the program has been continuing to rise,
exactly.
I think that would be big. I mean, a tough one for them coming up though. They will they head on the road to DC Everest. So, but it's a conference game, and you get another You just got a conference win over Memorial, so you'll try to put 3 in a row,
right?
Which would be great for them. So, we'll see what they can do there. Memorial then. Not an easy back. They go back to playing Menominee. Homecoming, I believe, for them at home against Menominee. So see what they can do.
Right.
The offense is they have all. I think everything's still first year. Things are starting to come together a little bit, but it's been a tough start here for them. But the talent is on that team.
Right.
There's plenty and I think who knows? A couple years ago they beat Menominee. Could happen again.
Yep. Rice Lake, kind of a high scoring one against Chippewa Falls, 47-30.
Yeah.
On that game, and Rice Lake remains undefeated.
I think Rice Lake has scored 40 points in almost every game, if not all of them this year. So Rice Lake, I mean, we're seeing right now a team that is just playing on a different level than pretty much everyone else. But a big matchup this week because they got New Richmond.
Wow,
is number 2 in the conference. So those two matching up, that'll be a fun one in Rice Lake to see 2 high-powered offenses going at it there. And then River Falls, Hudson beating Spash in overtime.
Yeah.
So they'll take on River Falls. And then Chi High at home against Superior. So Chi High looking to bounce back after that loss to Rice Lake. Again, the Big Rivers is still just so talented. So we'll see that. And then, you move on in a big matchup in the Clover Belt. You got first place Regis taking on Mondovi. Now, Mondovi coming off that loss couple weeks ago to Stanley Boyd.
And they just put up 82 against Neillsville Grant, and Mondovi did.
So Mondovi, that one's at Mondovi. And, this is a game I'm sure Craig Loscheider, circles on the calendar. I believe there's Brennard's on the coaching staff at Mondovi. It's just one of those, they know each other really well. Yep. It's like a friendly rivalry, but it's always this, in the middle of the season, we're getting to the point where teams are starting to clinch playoff berths and stuff. It's crazy. I can say that about everybody. Week 6. We're there, we're almost, we're a couple, end of this month, it's playoff time.
Yeah.
So, I think that'll be a big one there. Elkbound, Fall Creek, good, kind of a rivalry, Clover Belt rivalry going on there.
Yep.
Stanley Boyd gets Neillsville Grant, and Pep and Alma coming off a very close win. This is moving on to the Dairyland there, but they had a battle with Blair Taylor, got the win, I believe, in the last second. So they continue their run. They'll take on Mel Min. So, there's a lot of good games coming up on this week, and it's going to be a lot of fun to win. And then the 8-man, big win for McDonald over Gilman.
Yeah, it was.
So, I mean, that Gilman number 2, I believe, in the state. So, big statement win for them. So, coming off that, I believe they go to Cornell. So, there's games I'm probably leaving off, but man, Spring Valley and they're at Cadott this week. And they're playing well too.
I know Owen Withy blanked Thorpe 59-0. The milk can, good piece by Brandon, our good buddy Brandon. If you want to check that out on Chippewa Herald, but that was a big win too.
Yeah, I don't want to leave Owen Withy out of the number 1 team in the state. The Blackhawks have been good for a couple years. They've reached a new level this year, so they'll keep it going. See what they can do this week.
Yep, and I know Oliva Strum had a victory in overtime too.
And Oliva Strum, I think they're 4-1.
I think because they're undefeated in conference though.
Yep. So I mean, they lost week 1 because that was to Glenwood City.
Okay. Yep.
So I mean, you leave a Strum getting close. You get another win here. I think you're pretty much playoff eligible here. So big for them. And then Boyceville keeps running it well in the Dunn St. Croix. So there's
Boyceville coach was just last week Packers.
Yes. Yeah. Roma was the Packers coach of the week. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean it's all over the place right now
Mm-hmm.
with prep football, but yeah, there's going to be a ton of great games, and it looks like it's going to be a just ideal
Yes.
weekend for football. So.
Exactly. Really quick to the college side, Stout, I know, picked up a victory over the University of Northwestern, not Northwestern University, University of
The
Northwestern.
Minnesota
Yep.
Northwestern.
And then the Blue Golds did fall to Bethel too over the weekend to start off 1-2. And I know the Blue Golds have the bye week
Yeah,
this week here
and I
too.
think they're going to go obviously take a long look at what they can do. I mean, they play. Erickson talked about it in his interviews about how they're playing a tough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tough non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
And they played two really good teams there. So now you get the bye week and you head into conference play next week. So I think they have enough to look at. I mean, I think it's going to help them.
Mm-hmm.
I think you get in the conference play here and they're going to be in every one of these games.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that's going to be the case. And the offense has been showing what they can do.
Right.
You can get that defense to shore up a little bit. Because the WIAC is again stacked.
Yeah.
And you're going to have every game is going to be a battle, but I think this is a team that's starting to get battle tested.
One team for the Blue Golds though that I got to imagine, they've been so fun to watch since they first started just a few years ago, and you see what they're doing. The soccer team with a big win over Chicago.
Yeah,
to remain undefeated right now on the season 6-0-2. So no losses on there, but I mean that was a big game taking down University of Chicago.
Yeah.
Just the other day.
We were talking last week about Nathan Donovan's just kind of the individual accolades. You talk to him though, he was turning everything to the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it is. I mean, he doesn't have success if the team isn't having success. I mean, we saw it this week. They grind it out. They get had a draw earlier in the week,
Mm-hmm.
and then you come back and get a big win over Chicago. That Casey Holmes squad it's just fun to watch, and they've been that way since day one.
Exactly.
Like you wouldn't have thought that was a team in his first year. There's so much cohesion and just everybody's got everybody's back there.
Mm-hmm.
That just watching that team has been a joy.
Yeah.
And it's the women's team is grinding it out too, and
Yep.
and Yango's team is playing great too. So some really good soccer being played over there on Simpson Field right now.
Yep.
Another big week for them.
Yeah, they got number 1 St. Olaf at home or on the road on Wednesday.
Yep.
So
And then they're back home on Saturday, I believe, as well. So yeah, I mean it's going to be a big week for that. And I still have to call out, if there's any WIAC people voting on the athlete of the week, Nathan Donovan had 9 goals.
9 goals and he didn't get athlete of the week.
And he didn't get. I don't know. I'm just.
That's a grind my gears.
That's
Monday.
a grind my gears. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Maybe you could give it to him almost every week because he's just that good of
Mm-hmm.
a player. But how do you not look at? This guy had a hat trick in 3 straight games.
3 straight games for crying out loud, and your team's undefeated.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna delve too much into it, but it just like when the athlete of the week came out and they're like, "It should have been a no-brainer."
Yeah.
Like if a guy scored 6 touchdowns in a game,
You're probably going to give
making,
him. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, geez, man. But no, that's. I mean, I know we only got like a couple seconds here. Started 4 years ago, and where they're at now. I mean, and it's conference too, right? This year they've got conference in here too. So
get Stout on, and a new rivalry game. Yeah, it's really good.
It's a lot of fun to watch. Yep, setting some high standards. All right, dude. We appreciate it as always, man. Are you heading down to Green Bay for this game? Or you're not quite sure yet?
Not quite sure.
Okay,
we'll see.
So might be a.
I'm gonna hope to be there.
Tense one for sure. All right. Well, you have a good rest of your week, buddy. We appreciate you coming by and hanging out with us for a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
2 hours in, we got one more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these quick news updates. Final hour coming at you on this Victory Monday. Victory Monday, everybody. How y'all doing? Appreciate you tuning in however you're tuning in. If you're already at work or getting ready to hit the road to go to work, appreciate you making us part of your starts on this Monday morning of September 23rd. Get back to some more green and gold chats coming up here in just a few minutes. Brewers have the off day today before finishing up their regular season. Just 6 more. We got 3 on the road against Pittsburgh, and then back at home starting Friday to finish off their regular season, taking on the Mets, a team that maybe now they will face them when the playoffs start for them next week, or maybe it'll be the Diamondbacks, or maybe it'll be the Braves, or maybe it'll be someone. Would the Padres kind of fall off here and fall down? It's up in the air at this point, but we do know we got a good idea. Tentative schedule. The Brewers will start if they do finish as the 3rd seed, which I think, if we're going to make a prediction, I think that's where they're going to end up. They'll be playing on October 1st. So, but we'll get back to some more Brewers talk. New segment Monday. Big thanks to everybody that's already sent theirs in. We got some good ones. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Fill in the blanks there. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. So, like for an example, the one I use just as an example can be for fun, can be for serious. However, I'm not saying Malik Willis is the best quarterback in the league, but I'm just saying he might be better than any quarterback the Bears have ever had. So it's kind of like a little overreaction Monday. We're having some fun here, peeps. Okay, we're having some fun. So. A couple more to get to here. Again, can be fun, can be serious. We've got, I'm not saying, this is from Dave, I'm not saying that Chicago is where quarterbacks go to die, but never mind. There is no but. It's where quarterbacks go to die. Surveyor Sam saying, I'm not saying Minnesota's a top 5 team, but they are looking scary good and playing with a ton of momentum. Yeah, you're right, man. You're definitely right. That's going to be a big week 4 division matchup. No question about it. No question about it. These division games are going to be very, very important, regardless of what point in the season they're going up against. These head-to-head matchups, too. Man. But we got plenty of time to talk about those games, to preview that game coming up here. It's a Victory Monday, so we're recapping the W from yesterday. Who gets your tip of the cap? It's our version of game balls here, but who gets your tip of the cap from yesterday's performance? Who you tipping your cap to? Got some Malik Willis picks. We've got defensive front picks. I know Matt LaFleur gave a game ball to everybody in the defense, and then one game ball again to Malik Willis yesterday. After the game, if you watched that the locker room speech from the game yesterday, so plenty of people you could give your tip of the cap to. So, but we got what's this one here? Good morning, Dance Mike. I'm not saying that the Vikings are going to come down to earth next Sunday. I'm just saying they're going to get beat by 30 points. I like the optimism, Mike. Big thanks for that text in here. So yesterday, I guess, in the first hour or two, I'll kind of revisit it. I'm going to give a tip of the cap, though. So, we threw out the defense. We threw out Malik Willis. You could tip your cap to Matt LaFleur again. You can tip your cap to Jeff Hafley. I want to give a tip of the cap, though, to these receivers. I am so impressed with the mindset of this group. I mean, for a position that gets so much attention and is so focused on how many catches can you get, how many receiving yards can you get, how many touchdowns can you get. It's all about getting the ball and making plays and all that. And all off season into the preseason, the question regarding this Packers receiver group was, who's the number one? Who's the number one go-to option? Do they need a number one wide receiver? And then you had the debate going back and forth whether they need a number one. And then if it was going to be the number one, who was going to be the number one? To see this team in the last 2 weeks have the mindset to go out there and just be this selfless group, to go out there and block, as Matt LaFleur said, put on their blocking gloves, to go out there and do what it takes to just win the game. I mean, that's rare to see from an entire receiving group, to have that mentality, to have that selflessness from this young group. And that, I want to give just a big tip of the cap to that group. Because, when you're starting quarterback, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, he goes out after week one, your numbers are probably going to suffer a little bit. They're going to suffer a little bit. They're probably going to go down. You're probably not going to be throwing the ball a lot. But to go out there and be like, all right, we're going to step up our game. We're going to step up in the blocking game. We're going to help out any way we can, to go out there and just get W's, to win. I mean, we're 3 weeks in. Your leading receiver is Jayden Reed at $197. Then it's 130 for Romeo. Christian Watson's got 80. Christian Watson in 3 games just has 5 catches. Tucker Kraft's on there with 6 catches for 77. The one guy too that really hasn't been getting a ton, and he was a guy that, kind of like coming in with a lot of hype, is Dontavian Wicks. Dontavian Wicks, 3 catches for 26 yards. But this is such a selfless group right now. It's interesting too, these yak. Remember, was it 2007 when the Packers were like the yak team, yards after catch? I still remember that segment on, like, it was on ESPN NFL Countdown or something like that. I still remember the segment because it was Driver, Jennings, Jones, Corin Robinson, and there was another guy on there, and I'm just blanking. They talked about the yards after catch. Jayden Reed, of his 197, of his $197, he's got 116 yards after catch, compared to Romeo Doubs, 130, 24 yards after catch. Tucker Kraft, kind of the same boat, 77 yards total. His yak's 65. So 65 of those 77 are yards after the catch. But I'll even throw in the tight ends into this too. Last week we talked about Tucker Kraft and how he was involved in the blocking game and how critical he was to the success of the running game. The mindset of these guys, these receivers, these tight ends, to go out there and just do the job at hand. To do the job at hand. It's so cool to see, because how many times have we seen it over the years on teams where if you have a backup quarterback in, that backup quarterback's maybe struggling, missing some throws and such, and you're seeing temper tantrums on the sideline with the wide receiver and that quarterback, or you're kind of seeing some body language on the field with some of those quarterbacks or those receivers and that. You don't get that with Green Bay, with this group so far. You don't get that. So while their play in the last couple weeks maybe hasn't showed up in the box score, you got to give a big tip of the cap to this receiving group. They're winning because of their blocking. They're having fantastic performances because of what they're doing to help out their teammates out throughout this game, or throughout these last 3 games. I mean, obviously, what can you say about, Malik Willis? His numbers, you're looking at a 73.5% completion percentage. Has he been asked to do a whole lot? No. But you know what? It's working right now. And that again is where you give credit to Matt LaFleur. And I'll admit, like, going back to Friday, I was nervous about this game. And I was nervous about this game because I didn't know. I felt like we lost the element of surprise if Malik Willis was going to be the starter. And my question was heading into the game is what else does Matt LaFleur have in store? How much of that playbook did he open up in that game against the Colts? What else did he have left? Or what else could they do during that week to add a new element, to add a new wrinkle to it? And to go back to Big Worm, like you said, the fake pitch, and then you hit the shallow crosser to Jane Reed for a big 30, but then you throw in a couple of deep balls to Christian Watson. We saw Malik throw a little bit. We knew, I think we all kind of knew Malik had to throw more in this game. He was going to have to throw more. Unless the Titans were just going to be completely dumb about the whole situation. Be like, we're not going to load up the box. We're not going to do that. Obviously, we watched that game. We saw how they were lining up defense. They were loading up that box. They were either going to go after Malik Willis, or they were going to load up and try to stop Josh Jacobs in that running game. So we knew, Matt LaFleur knew, that they were going to have to throw it a little bit more, and they might have to stretch the field a little bit more and go deep on a couple plays. We knew that. And for the most part, yeah, they did a pretty darn good job at it. But also utilizing Malik Willis's legs. Malik Willis, too, made some really good decisions. When he was getting pressured, instead of making stupid mistakes like Will Levis has been known to make a couple stupid mistakes so far this year, and that was kind of the talking point about him throughout this game, Malik Willis didn't make stupid mistakes. He didn't panic when he was getting rushed. If he was getting rushed and there was that opening, he used his athleticism. He used his legs for big plays. But they also incorporated that into the game plan here a little bit too. For a Packers fan like myself who has seen their team get burned by mobile quarterbacks throughout how many years, it was kind of nice to see us burning a team with a mobile quarterback. I'd say it was kind of cool. Kind of nice. Just saying, kind of nice. But that's, again, a credit to Malik for not trying to do too much, not trying to play hero ball. But also, again, LaFleur incorporating his athleticism and his running into some of these plays. And, I know there's this excitement about Malik Willis from some fans saying, hey, we can trade him now, maybe after the season or such. And we could trade Malik Willis for maybe a draft pick and maybe get a decent pick. I understand thought process where some people are about that because, Malik Willis, he's going to be, he's not going to be the starter. There's no quarterback controversy in Green Bay. It's going to be Jordan Love. But, Malik Willis is under contract for another year. I've got no problem with him being the backup. Just because, you could maybe cash in and trade him to a quarterback desperate team. Get a decent draft pick. Cool. But you know what? I don't want to have the conversation next year, too, is like, okay, who's the backup quarterback going to be? And is that backup quarterback good enough to win games? I'm A-okay with him being on the roster, people. And you should be, too. It's okay to finally have, and I know we're putting a lot in on 2 games, but it is a Monday morning, and it is a kind of an overreaction Monday, or a I'm not saying, but I'm just saying Monday. But I'm perfectly comfortable, yet I'm perfectly happy and excited that you got a backup quarterback that could go in there and win you a game. You got a backup quarterback that your offensive coordinator slash head coach can put together a game plan for to win games. Before Malik Willis played last week, the biggest question I had about him wasn't mostly about him. It was about what is Matt LaFleur going to do for him? Because we saw what he did with Jordan Love's first start against Kansas City. It's kind of like he held him back a little bit. And my question was, did he learn from that? Did he learn from it? Because he's said it multiple times, several times since then, that he regretted how he game planned for that. I think it's clearly obvious. Yeah, Matt LaFleur has grown since then. He's grown as a play caller. He's grown as a head coach. He's gotten better in that department. And I don't want to look too far ahead to Minnesota because we got plenty of time and it's a victory Monday. But if Matt LaFleur, and I think he's kind of in a rhythm right now. You go back to last year in that second half in the playoffs and where he's at. Hasn't been 100% perfect in play calls and stuff. No, it hasn't. But he's kind of in a rhythm right now where I feel like a lot of times he's one step ahead. One step ahead of that play call. And I don't want to put this week 4 matchup, man, with Minnesota 3-0, Green Bay 2-1. This division I think is going to be tight. These head-to-heads and division records are going to really matter. But you look at what Minnesota's defense has done the last 2 weeks, what Brian Flores has done going up against Shanahan and Bobby Slowick. LaFleur, those two teams, similar offensive concepts that LaFleur runs, all a part of the same tree. All those guys, same tree. What is LaFleur going to try to do and try to succeed at doing that Shanahan couldn't do, that Slowick couldn't do with their offenses going up against Brian Flores and the Vikings defense? What is LaFleur going to do? You got to imagine he's going to be looking at those 2 games. Him and his staff, they're going to be looking at those 2 games. Because right now, Brian Flores for Minnesota, the Vikings defensive coordinator, he's kind of getting the title of Shanahan offensive, killer or stopper. So what is LaFleur going to do that's different, that's successful against that style of defense? That to me is, if LaFleur goes out there and let's say the offense has a good day against Minnesota, I don't know, then I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, LaFleur should be maybe considered the top play caller in the NFC. Because Brian Flores, for whatever reason, that defense, he's got something against Shanahan-style offenses right now. And somebody has yet to crack it. Can LaFleur be that guy? That, to me, is going to be something intriguing to watch in that game. Your thoughts, your reactions, your analysis from the game, hit me up with a text. 715-830-1912 on this Victory Monday, all right? You got to be excited. You got to be stoked, right? Okay, we find out. Let's rewind here a little bit. After that Philly game, and we see Jordan Love go down and in pain on the field, and we're all thinking the worst late Friday night, early Saturday morning. And we got to wait because they're on a plane. He's not getting an MRI yet. He's on a plane. But then it starts to trickle out. Okay, it's not the ACL, it's this, but he could be out a few weeks. And then Malik Willis is going to be the guy. You have got to, I don't care who they play. I don't care that it's the Colts, and I don't care that it's the Titans. I don't care that it's those 2 teams. That one team is winless and one team just got their first win. I don't care about the quality of the opponent right now. But you have got to be ecstatic if you're a Packers fan. Pumped up as HE double hockey sticks. That you just went 2-0 with a backup quarterback that just got to town a month ago. You got to be ecstatic. And you're in a position to get your starting quarterback back this weekend. I'm not afraid to call it a very pivotal week 4 game. Assuming everything from what we've seen, and I know that's dangerous, but from the first couple weeks of the season, Minnesota is going to be a team to deal with. Now, I know there's some question, too, about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's kind of on this about his knee injury after the game. They're getting an MRI and all that. But I mean, you're talking about a big time week 4 division matchup, a team that's 3-0, you're 2-1. Head to heads are going to matter in this thing. Green Bay picks up that win. They're 3-1, same as Minnesota, but they already got an early tiebreak. I know it doesn't set, it's not going to forecast the whole season, but it's a pretty big game on week 4. All right, we got to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more. Also, Brewers fans, I want to hear from you. Okay, are you concerned with what you saw from your baseball team this weekend, entering the final week of the regular season? Let's hit that up. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Your your tailgating headquarters is located right at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Whether you're looking for snacks during the game or snacks for some road trips, items to put up on the grill, beverages, all that good stuff, swag to represent your favorite teams from the high school to the pro level. Hy-Vee has it all. So get on over there, grab yourself some Dan Good burgers, grab yourself a 6-pack of the new Man Cave Lights. Do tailgating rights this year with your friends from Hy-Vee. I want to give another shout out or another tip of the cap, excuse me, to somebody from this Packers team too. How about a little bit of a tip of the cap to Brian Gutekunst? You know, Brian Gutekunst is a dude that sometimes gets really compared to Ted Thompson, and it's not a bad thing. I don't want to make it sound like that's such a bad thing. Ted Thompson was a good GM, but he had his faults. And I think we could all agree that one of his faults was maybe he held on to his draft picks a little too long. You know, they got the benefit of the doubt because he was their draft picks. And I think Goody has shown in his short career thus far as Packers general manager that he's not of that same mold. To go out there this offseason, after preseason was over with, and to say, Sean Clifford, just because you were a backup last year and you were my draft pick last year, you were a 5th-round pick, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to be our backup this year. You're gone. Michael Pratt, we drafted you this year. You're not good enough. You're gone. Hate to be that blunt about it, but he saw the situation. He looked at that situation and be like, we need to be better at this. We need to be better at this position. So he goes out there and he makes a trade for Malik Willis, and and I know when that trade was done, I remember we were kind of like, I was one of them, like, okay, meh. You know, because what we have seen from Malik Willis wasn't that great during his short stint in Tennessee. Well, and yeah, we got expedited right away. All right, we got a couple games with Malik. Credit to him too. Dude's been good, but he's been solid, and I think it's been a perfect cohesion between player, play caller, head coach, team, et cetera, et cetera. Brewers fans, how you feeling about your team right now? How are you feeling about your team as they wrap up this regular season this week? Off day today. I'm going to give you a couple scenarios and which side of the aisle are you on mostly? So they dropped 3 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks. It took a comeback down 8 runs on yesterday, for them to come back. I mean, great comeback, down 8, and you win 10-9, and you're still the only team right now in the majors without a 4-game losing streak. But with 6 more games left to go here, and your team just dropped 3 to 4 against the Diamondbacks, nearly lost 4 in a row. How concerned are you with this team as they approach the offseason? Do you think they're kind of sleepwalking into the postseason? Or are you of the mindset of, you know what? They just wrapped up 13 games in a row without a bye. They took 2 out of 3 against the Giants on the road. They took 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks on the road. They took 2 out of 3 against Philly at home. And that final game in Philly was a walk-off. They had already clinched the division before that game. But they got that walk-off victory, and it was a little bit more of a celebration there. A celebration, at least you're celebrating after a win instead of, hey, we lost, but we still won a division, so let's go celebrate. Maybe a little bit of a letdown because of a little bit of a celebration let down because after that, hey, you had to start your 4-game series right away against the Diamondbacks. So maybe you're like, yeah, they needed an off day because it was 13 games in a row and you mixed in, the celebration, the intensity there. They just needed an off day, and they get that today. So, what side are you on right now? What side of the aisle? Or maybe you're in the middle, because that's kind of where I'm at this point. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little concerned. I'm a big believer in momentum. I'm a big believer in momentum. You ride momentum into the postseason. It doesn't mean you're going to be automatically crowned as champs, or you're going to be crowned as your league champ and go to the championship. But I'm a big believer in momentum. Momentum equals confidence. And the last thing I want to see is this Brewers team again, kind of just going in, sleepwalking, riding the wave. Because it is a good point. Last year, Diamondbacks they lost their last 4 going into the postseason. Look what happened. And they, I think, kind of got a little momentum at the hands of the Brewers there. But nonetheless, I am a believer in momentum. So I would like to see the Brewers playing some of their best baseball, playing with a lot of confidence as they enter the postseason. Because even though this year is different, it's got this different feeling. We've talked about this before. It's like, we've been to the postseason how many times these last few years? But we kind of have this new, okay, but we want to start to win some games in the postseason. We want to start to advance in the postseason. And this year's a little different because I think, we're at a spot. I didn't expect this to happen. I think a lot of people didn't expect this to happen. So it's a little bit different, but I still want the team to win and advance in the postseason, regardless if I expected them to be there or not. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned, but at the same time, I understand too that 13 games in a row was a long stretch. It's probably a lot of mental wear and tear on there too. And yes, you got a little celebration hangover. I think there was a little bit of a letdown. I mean, let's be real. You clinch it. You win. You clinch. What happens the next day? You're sitting the guy out that wanted to play 162 games in a row. You're sitting some veterans out. You're sitting Contreras out. These guys that maybe have little nagging injuries. If it was a game that was a must win, they're going to play. But there's going to be that natural little letdown. So I understand both sides of it. I guess to make me feel super better now would be, okay, now you got an off day. Let's regroup. Okay? Let's regroup. Let's catch our breath. 13 games in a row. Celebration mixed in there. There's a lot going on. There was a lot going on here. Let's take today. Obviously, they're going to be traveling if they didn't travel yesterday. Take a deep breath, relax a little bit, refocus, regroup. And let's finish these next 6 strong. I don't know what the mindset's going to be because they're currently 4 back from the top spot and they're 3 back from the second spot. But again, they don't have any tiebreakers, remember. They don't have any tiebreakers. So they're going to have to take care of their business, but at the same time, they're going to need a little bit of help. Not a little bit, probably a lot of help here. I just want to see this group. Okay, let's get back on track. Let's play some good ball. And let's get that confidence as we get to the postseason. That Mets series to me, though, is the one that's because by the time they get to that Mets series, they could very well find out whether they're going to be the 3 seed and no chance to go any higher. So if that's the case, how do they approach it? How do they approach, what's the mindset heading into that series? Is it resting guys? Is it just maybe playing guys, a couple guys, couple innings here or there? It's a fine balance. I think you still got to get your regulars, your main guys. You got to get them some ABs. You got to get some work in. You got. I almost feel like I want a little bit more of a regular type of schedule, if that makes sense. I get it. It's a fine line. Bullpen guys, pitchers, you probably want a little bit more rest with. But, that Mets series to me, that potentially could be. I think we're going to know by Friday what the mindset's going to be, how the Brewers finish this off. Mets are Mets are going to have more to play for in that series. Let's be real, because they could either finish up as the 5th, maybe the 6th, maybe they're staying in Milwaukee. Who knows? But I understand. Going back to the original question at hand, which side am I on? I'm about 50-50. Like, yeah, that Arizona series wasn't great. It was awesome to see them have that grit and come back yesterday. Maybe that's something they could build upon. Or maybe that's the momentum kind of starting up and they're riding it into the postseason that way. I do feel like the first 3 games of this series was a little bit of an emotional letdown and kind of just let their guard down a little bit after, all those other games in a row. And they were playing good baseball right up until this Arizona series. They were playing really good. So I don't want to overreact to just this one series. But I definitely want to see them going into the postseason, not sleepwalking, but just playing some solid ball. All right. Last call for any of your, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying statements. You can hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Or hit me up on the video stream or on the socials. We got a few to catch up on that I haven't gotten to yet. So we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. If my computer, there we go. All right, last break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to wrap up things after these quick words. When it comes to updating your flooring game, look no further than Wisconsin's premier flooring store. That's Carpet City Flooring Center right here in Eau Claire. So if you're looking to maybe update the flooring in your living room, your bedroom, whatever space, your office, maybe you're a business owner right now and you're looking to do a little upgrading in your office, Carpet City Flooring Center is the place to check out. Whether it's carpet you're looking for, luxury vinyl planks, they got it all. Best deals in the area because if you happen to find a better deal elsewhere, they will match or beat the competition. The install teams are top of the line over there. The entire team at Carpet City Flooring Center is top of the line. Great teammates to have if you're looking to update your flooring game. Also, speaking of good customer service, if you're looking to maybe get that oil change, is that light coming on your vehicle where it says, "Dude, you got to get an oil change," or maybe it's time to get some new treads, get some new tires, especially before the winter season comes here. Make your appointment at ASAP Used Auto Parts. Not only is ASAP Used Auto Parts your go-to place for uh, high quality used auto parts to help you save some money, they're your go-to place for oil changes and new tires. So check them out. Located on the west side of Eau Claire, just across the street from the Dodge. Before we get to some picks and predicts here this morning, a few texts to catch up on the Brewers. David says, typical Brewers team sleepwalking right before the postseason. They will be a quick in and out like usual. All right. He not happy with the Brewers right now. We've got Chris saying, definitely concerned with the Brewers. I understand that they had 13 games in a row and won their first couple of series, but you can't get complacent. Eye on the prize, especially with some of these wild card teams in the National League playing some really good baseball right now. I'm concerned with whoever the Brewers will be going up against. A couple of other points of view with the Brewers. Corey saying, feeling great about the crew going into the postseason. You can't count them out. Yesterday was a reflection of the entire season. No 4-game losing streak. They have been resilient all year. Lots of close wins and come from behind wins, even if they get down in a playoff series. You can't count them out, and they know it. They have come from behind. Confidence. JV and Cadots. JV and Cadot. Okay. We've got Steve from Eau Claire. Yes, this last series was disappointing for the Brewers, but I'm not concerned. It's not like we lost 3 out of 4 against the White Sox. It was against a team who is fighting for their playoff lives right now, and I think Murphy was right when he said the Boos yesterday lit a fire under the Brewers. They are still the only team in the league without a 4-game losing streak this season. I think that scrappiness will be a huge help come playoff time. Steve, I'll say I thought the Brewers did have the tiebreaker over the Dodgers based on divisional records. If we finish the same record, did that change now? Well, it's always been, well, in the last few years, but remember, there's no game 163. So the first tiebreaker is head to head. And the Dodgers have the head to head against the Brewers. Now, if there was like 3-way ties or if that was all tied up, then you go to like the intra-division record. Then it's the division record, so like Brewers against their division teams. That's the second tiebreaker. But the first tiebreaker is head-to-head record. And the Dodgers have that over the Brewers. So that's why the Brewers don't have the tiebreaker right now. A couple more texts before, again, just kind of coming in here. We've got, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the Brewers regardless, just because I don't trust them when it comes to playing time, says Nathan. And then Eric, he's given a tip of the cap to the entire Packers squad yesterday. Just a straight out awesome team W. All right. Good stuff. Thanks for those texts there. Really quick, I think I had a tweet over here too. Let me bring it up here before. Troiber. How about these quarterbacks in different systems having early success? Malik Willis, Fields. I think that's supposed to be Darnold. Also, don't tell me how important it is having a good backup. Look at us and the Panthers. Bingo. You nailed it there, man. Absolutely. How about Andy Dalton, over 300 yards? I think he's the only one, or was he the first quarterback so far this year to throw over 300 yards, for crying out loud? Jeez. All right, let's do some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room located in Eau Claire, right next to the Banbury Place. Again, you're checking out where to get some or where to catch some of the action, catch some of the games while enjoying some good company over there. Head on over to the Elbow Room and grab yourself a cold beverage and kick back and relax and watch some of the games and enjoy some good convo out there. We got football games to be picking here. We've got baseball games to be picking as the final week of the regular season starts today. Let's start off with baseball. We just got a few games here, full slate coming at you tomorrow. Cubbies at Philly. I'll go with the Philadelphia Phillies. Boston at Toronto. Give me the Blue Jays. Seattle, Houston could be a good one. Seattle just 2 games back from a wild card spot. They're closer to a wild card spot than they are for the division against Houston. So I am going to go with I'm going to go with No, I'm going to go Houston. I'm going to go Houston. San Francisco at Arizona. I'll go with the Diamondbacks tonight. Then let's do 2 games. Remember, 2 games tonight for a little Monday Night Football action. First one kicks off at 6:30. Jacksonville at Buffalo. This is a big game for the Jaguars to avoid starting 0-3. I mean, they began the season losing 20-17 to Dolphins, and they lost last week 18-13 against the Browns. This is a huge game for the Jaguars, but I'm going Buffalo. I'm gonna go with Buffalo picking up the win. And then we've got Washington at Cincinnati. I'm rolling with the Bengals in this game. Quick look at our picks and predicts through the Fan Cave, our pro football, I should say our pro football pick'em challenge. Excuse me. We do have a tie up at first place. Somebody tied me up now. Taking a look at that. It's going to load up for me. I checked it. Yeah, James. James is up there tied with me at 31 correctly made picks. So if you haven't made your picks yet for tonight's games, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can start to make your picks for week 4. Just head to sportstalk1051.com. Click on the Fan Cave tab, scroll all the way down, and make your picks over there. All right, let's start to wrap up things here this morning. Big thanks for all your comments, your texts, your tweets, your Facebook posts, whatever the case may be. Good stuff as always. Big thanks everybody for our new segment 2, for contributing with the I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, kind of like a little overreaction Monday sort of feel there. So big thanks for that. Keep those coming. We'll do that every Monday. Okay, we'll do that every Monday after the weekend's games and such. So think about that. Tomorrow, we'll do some what's grinding your gears. First off, little grind my gears Tuesday coming at you. Okay, but also we're gonna do a little analyze this Tuesday. Now that we're Victory Monday is over with, kind of done celebrating the victory and such. Hit on a certain, analyze this, deep dive into a certain area from that game. So we'll hit that up. But we'll talk Badgers too with RJ Cardinal coming up. He's getting ready to head over to the West Coast to take in Badgers versus USC. So, yeah, how you feeling about that Badger game coming up here, huh? Maybe some of you are thinking, thank gosh there was no Badger game for me to watch this past weekend. I don't know, but yeah, what a bummer. But we'll catch up on all things Badgers with Mr. Cardinal coming up tomorrow as well. Big thanks to Justice for stopping by for about an hour with us, talking some Pack, talking some Brewers, but also a local sports roundup with him. If you missed any of that, a reminder: the Man Cave podcast. We've got that segment that's included in the Man Cave podcast. So we'll upload that a little bit later on this morning. But can you believe high school football? We're already talking about teams clinching playoff spots. Not even we're at the end of September, but it's at that point in time that we are already talking about high school playoff spots when it comes to football, man. So, and then plus we'll have a new episode, regular episode of the Man Cave Podcast up a little bit later on this morning. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. That way you never miss an episode, because sometimes we will drop multiple episodes. Available on your favorite podcasting platforms and on YouTube, on the YouTube channel over there. Big thanks to Hy-Vee and Toyson 4, partners of the Man Cave Podcast. So, really quick, 2 more texts that came in here. Tip of the cap to Malik Willis. What a fantastic last couple weeks for him. He's got to be the happiest man in the world, but it's a credit to him to put in all that amount of work in a short amount of time. And then finally, with the Brewers, we got another texter. I don't have a name, but saying I don't have a lot of confidence in the Brewers heading into the postseason. I just feel like they're going to have a bad matchup going up against a wild card team that is playing really good ball heading into the postseason. All right. Well, we'll see how this week goes for the Crew. Again, no game today. They'll be back at tomorrow on the road against Pittsburgh. DP and the Danettes, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Victory Monday. We'll be back tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. Talk to you then.